Welcome to Word Processing 2, Topic 1.2.4, changing page orientation and paper size. So the page orientation is one that's done fairly commonly. So there are times where you want either for the whole thing or even just for one page to be formatted landscape or portrait or vice versa. We can change all of these in our page setup. So our orientation allows us to determine whether this is portrait or landscape. Portrait being vertical like our page setup window, and landscape is when it's wider than it is tall. We can say whether it applies to just this section forward. Had anything been selected, the selected content would have been the default. If we go to whole document for our application, then we enable the option to change the paper size. So we have the North American standards of letter, tabloid, and legal. We also have statements, the executive format, the folio, and then we have the European standards. So note A3, the 11.69 inches is the width of one and the height of the other. If you divide the height by 2, you get the width of the next. So essentially you fold A3 in half, you produce A4. You fold A4 in half, you produce A5. Similarly, fold B4 in half, you get B5, and so forth. So you have a number of these options to pick from. A4 is the most similar to the letter page, so if you are producing this and trying to print it in Europe, you probably want to change it to A4 rather than trying to get it shrunken down. Switching to A4 will preserve your margin choices, but it will readjust how things fit on the page. So, for example, we see here page 1, column 1 starts with us, and early in the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment. If we go to our page setup for the whole document, change it from letter to A4, then when it reformats, it no longer says us and the Great Disillusionment at the top of that page. That is now the bottom of the previous column. So it will cause some adjustments in terms of the formatting, just because our page has different dimensions. So if you are printing something in Europe after setting it up in North America, you have to choose whether you would prefer to change the paper format to fit the local printers, knowing that it might mess up some formatting, or keep it in this formatting, in which case it would typically get shrunken down to fit the dimensions. So moving to the taller European paper, it would increase the margins on top and bottom, but then the last word on page 4 stays the last word on page 4. So just be aware of what the pros and cons are of each choice when you're making them.